Alright, we're back with Norman to do some simplifying fractions into their lowest term or simplest form. She's getting a little bit grumpy from doing all this math, but supposedly you are too. But we'll try and give it a go, so be patient and bear with me and we'll go step by step. So simplifying fractions into their lowest term or simplest form has a lot to do with equivalent fractions. In other words, if we look at 1/4, if we drew 1/4, that's nice and simple. 1/4 is equivalent to 2/8. And we got 2/8 by multiplying both the numerator and the denominator by the same number, and in this case it was 2. So as you can see, when we draw 2/8 and shade them in, it's equivalent to 1/4. They are the exact same amount, so it's fair, it's equal. Now, simplifying fractions has a lot to do with equivalent fractions. A fraction in its lowest term means that both the numerator and the denominator are the smallest number possible. So if you look at 1/4, 1/4 is this fraction in the lowest term or simplest form, because 2/8 can be simplified into 1/4. Mathematicians are really lazy, so we don't want to write 1 million over 4 million over and over again as a fraction. We would rather say 1/4 because it's our simplest form or our lowest term. Could you imagine saying that 1 million out of 4 million people all the time instead of 1/4 of the population for things that you need to discuss more easily or more readily? 1/4 is also more tangible for us to understand rather than 1 million out of 4 million. Because let's be real, who of us actually wants to draw 1 million pieces out of a whole that has 4 million pieces? So, you can call us lazy as mathematicians, or you can call us smart for reducing them to their simplest form. In order to reduce to the simplest form, you need to know greatest common factors. In other words, if I gave you 2/8, you would need to find the greatest common factor of both 2 and 8. So the common factors of 2 are 1 and 2. You guys should know common factors by now because you are pros at them. And then the factors of 8 are 1 and 8 and 2 and 4. If you look at the factors of both 2 and of 8, the ones that they have in common are 1 and 2. Out of these two numbers that they have in common, which is the greatest? And we can see that the greatest common factor is 2. So that means now that I know the greatest common factor of 2 and 8, I can take both my numerator and my denominator and divide them by my greatest common factor, which is 2. So 2 divided by 2 gives me 1, and 8 divided by 2 gives me 4. So that means that I have now simplified 2/8 into its lowest possible term, 1/4. Let's try a more difficult example. 33 out of 44. Gross. I can simplify this now. By listing both the factors of 33 and 44, I am able to understand which the greatest common factor is, and therefore be able to simplify my fraction into its lowest term or its simplest forms. Those are really important words for you to understand when you're dealing with fractions, because when you are asked to answer a question in its simplest form, you always have to think two things: equivalent fractions and greatest common factor. So let's get back to 33 and 44 and listing their factors. So 1 is a factor, so is 33. And then the other factor of 33 is 3 and 11. So let's list the factors of 44. 1 and 44. The other factors of 44 are 4 and 11. Let's go ahead and circle the common factors between 33 and 44. So in both cases we have 1, and in both cases we have 11. Well, which is larger, 1 or 11? And I hope you know the answer to that it's 11. So now that I have my greatest common factor as 11, I can go back to this fraction and reduce it to its lowest form, or lowest term, by dividing. You're always dividing when you're dealing with lowest term or simplest form, all right? So you are making equivalent fractions, but when I ask for your lowest term, always divide. And you divide by that greatest common factor. So 33 divided by 11 is 3, and 44 divided by 11 is 4. So 33 out of 44 is equivalent to 3/4, and that is the most simplest form. I cannot reduce this any further without getting decimals, and we cannot have decimals when we're working with fractions. Let's try one more just to make sure that we're good. Let's find the simplest form of 12/36. Some of you may be able to look at these numbers and right away think, oh, I can see what this would be reduced to. But to be safe, let's go through and find that greatest common factor of 12 and 36. So for 12, 1 is a factor, which means that 12 must also be a factor, because 1 times 12 is 12. 12 is an even number, so I know that 2 fits perfectly into 12, and that's paired with 6. Once again, remember, by pairing, I am able to say I'm not going to miss any of the possible factors. 3 is also a factor of 12, because 12 divided by 3 gives me a whole number, and what's the whole number that it gives me? It gives me 4. So 4 also must be a factor. Now, because I know that I have 1, 2, 3, 4, my next number up is 5. 5 is not a factor of 12. And then I've already paired off 6. I have to have all the factors. So we're good with 12. Let's start 36. 1 is a factor of 36. 1 times what gives me 36? Well, 36, so it must be a factor. 36 is an even number, so 2 goes into 36 perfectly. 2 is paired with 18, so 18 is also a factor, because 2 times 18 gives me 36. 3 goes in with 12. 4 goes in with 9. Wow, 36 has a lot of factors. But I shouldn't stop here, because what about 5, 6, 7, and 8? I have to figure out whether or not those numbers are factors of 36 too, because I already have 9. So let's try 5. Is 5 a factor of 36? Nope, it's not. What about 6? Yeah, 6 totally is. And the factor that 6 is paired with is itself, so 6. So 6 is a factor of 36. And now I don't need to worry about 7 or 8, because I've found my pair for 4 to be 9. So there can't actually be any other factors. So now I know that I have them all. Let's go through and circle the common factors. We have 1, we have 2, we have 3, both of them have 4, both of them have 6, and both of them have 12. So it's really important for you to go through and find the greatest common factor, because if you accidentally forgot 12 on one of these, you would have gone with 6. And then when you were trying to reduce your fraction to its simplest form, you would have got the incorrect answer. So it's imperative that you go through and you find the greatest common factor for both of these numbers. So we've decided that the greatest common factor is 12. Taking what we know about this greatest common factor, I can take my fraction and divide both my numerator and my denominator by 12, because that's my greatest common factor. 12 divided by 12 is 1. 36 divided by 12 is 3. All of a sudden, I've reduced it to its simplest form, and this cannot be reduced any further. This is easy for me to understand. It's easy for me to visualize. At least it's a lot easier than 12 out of 36. So this is reducing fractions into their simplest form or lowest term. Please email me if you have any questions regarding this, and do all of the assignments on Khan Academy.